Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Leo and their personality, and yes, this does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Well, anyway, people, Leos, I see them as being very dignified. They're very proud. Pride really is something that they put into whatever they do generally. And Leos can have a lot of valor, courage, and fortitude. My grandfather, God rest his soul, he was Sun in Leo. And he was diminutive in stature, but he was a very brave man. Sometime in the 1940s, he jumped into the intrepid waters of the Long Island Sound to save somebody that was in apparently a plane, someone that had been in a plane that crashed into the Long Island Sound and saved them from potentially drowning. And I mean, this was somebody that, as I stated, not very big as far as his physical stature, but he just had a heart of gold. And Leos can also be very magnanimous, very generous people. They often they could be extravagant as well, and Leos often live beyond their means. Leos, unfortunately, out of all the signs, probably have the greatest propensity to rack up credit card debt because of this, because Leo has a tendency to want the finest things in life, and whether they can afford it or not, I think sometimes it has to do with their pride. They want to have the flashiest things very often, the most expensive things. They want to be able to say and boast that they have these things. And sometimes what happens, consequently, they go out of their means, and it does, unfortunately, consequently lead to a very strong debt. So another thing about Leos is that they could be very flamboyant. They are the kinds, people that could be very showy, and there is a thing about Leo that just wants to be the king. They like to stand out and be number one. Now, Muhammad Ali, boxing legend Muhammad Ali had a Leo ascendant, and saying that he was flamboyant was probably a vast understatement. As many of you may know, that he had said that he was the greatest, and a lot of people believe he was unequivocally the greatest boxer of all time. And the thing about it is, you have some Leos that can back up their talk. There may be some that can't, but many Leos do want to be number one, or at least very close to number one in whatever it is they do. Now, prolific NFL quarterback Tom Brady has his Sun in Leo, and a lot of people think that he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Leos really, they have this propensity to often stand out, whether they really want to or not. In contrast to Aries, I think Leo just seems to get attention without really demanding it, but Aries often is the sign that wants to make the effort to get it, but Leo just seems like they just get it. They just automatically get it. And anyway, thing about Leo, though, on negative side, Leos can often be very domineering and controlling. Leos like to dominate, and they generally can be in control of most situations, not really necessarily in a manipulative way, but they have the ability to stay in control of situations generally. Leos can often be very great leaders as well. They can be, you might find a lot of Leo people in like the military, or just anything which requires certain courage. Leos, like Aries, are generally not afraid of combative situations or confrontations. Leos can often be the ideal people to be in the auto repossession business, because you often have a lot of conflict and confrontations that go on in that business. And even police work, this is very similar that way. Now, Leos often, I mean, their vitality could be very immense and strong, to say the least. They often appear to be indefatigable or inexorable as far as their energy goes. Again, with my grandfather as an example, Sun in Leo, I can remember where he used to do things and work with untiring persistence, even in his older days. He just seemed like he had like a no-quit philosophy. I think what it is Leos don't want to admit that they're going to be conquered at something. They want to emerge victorious in whatever it is they're doing. They feel like if they fail at some conquest or something they're trying to do or accomplish, I think they could really take it to heart, and they don't want to be defeated, and I think it has a lot to do with that. Also, Leos can be very dramatic, often have very good dramatic ability. Often very good actors you'll find will have a Leo sun, moon, or ascendant. Legendary actor Robert Redford, of course, Leo sun. Tom Cruise, I believe, has a Leo moon, and Clint Eastwood does as well. Glenn Close, I believe, has a Leo ascendant. You're going to find, I mean, a lot of people that are in acting can have often have a sun, moon, or Leo ascendant. Actor Michael McGowan has his sun in Leo. It's another good example. And another thing too is that on the negative side with Leo, they can be somewhat gullible. It's a little different than Pisces gullibility. Leo sometimes, I think, will fall for things because they feel that these certain people are simply not going to prevaricate, or they're not going to lie to them, because I think they just hold themselves in such high regard. This is impossible to happen to them, where Pisces is just general trusting. Pisces can be deceptive, but they are known to be deceived as well. So, and the thing also with Leo too is that they could, being a masculine sign, of course, they could be very gregarious and extroverted. Leos can often be the life of a party. They can often have a very strong, a good sense of humor. And funny thing is with Leo is that they have that effort in them, that very persistent effort. If this doesn't work, then I'll try maybe something different. I have a friend, one time he told me he was doing some kind of sales, and he's a sun in Leo, and he knocked on the front door of some home, and the guy answers the door, and he said he didn't want what he was selling. And then what he did was, the sun in Leo friend went to the back door, and he knocked on the back door. He said, how about this now, or something to the effect, would you want to buy this now? And what happened was, as a result, even though my friend was being flippant, but he was trying to sell what he was trying to sell at the same time, sell the product. I think that opened the guy up a little bit, the potential or prospective customer, because he made a joke, and he allowed him to come in, and he ultimately sold the product. It was a vacuum cleaner. And it just kind of epitomizes the Leo way. They find ways to win in certain situations where you feel there's no way that they could really be triumphant or emerge victorious. But Leo often will find a way to win and conquer, because that is what they're about. And another thing with Leos is just that they exude such a confidence and self-assuredness about themselves. They feel that there's no way they can lose, and often their positive attitude is what helps them in this regard. And the thing too about Leo is that they are just really, I mean, as friends, they could be very loyal and steadfast. They are people who will often stay with you to the bitter end when others may have forgotten about you. Leo is a fixed sign, and of course that means that they're often very loyal, very steadfast. And the thing about it is that they could be hurt, even though they might get hurt easier than you think they do. Often in a solar or natal chart, the zodiac sign Cancer will fall on the 12th house. So what happens is, if they're sad or despondent about something, they'll often show this in seclusion, in solitude, and they won't show it in front of somebody. They'll show those emotions in private often, but you could still, but if a friend has offended them or betrayed them, they could really feel this hurt inwardly. And they just often won't show it to the person, and what will happen as a result is Leo may often just simply at that point in time, if they've suffered a devastating blow, figurative blow from a friend, they will often at that point in time they could turn their back and just forget about them at that point and just may not speak to them anymore. That could be like their defense mechanism. Now, Leos can often have a fiery temperament as well. It is a fire sign, of course, and they can have a temper. I don't think they're quite as quick-tempered as Aries, Aries being ruled by Mars, but I think they're pretty close. Leos can also be high-strung and excitable, and they're really one of the more hot-tempered signs of the zodiac. And if you don't really want to be around Leo when that temper is unleashed, it can be very strong, to say the least, and really it could put the more passive types in a state of trepidation, really. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Leo and their personality, and stay tuned next time where I'll be talking about Virgo and their personality. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.